Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Tulsa Life podcast. We are so happy that you're joining us today. And just as a reminder, because now we're like really getting into this podcast thing, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe on our YouTube channel or on Apple or on Spotify or any of the places that you're finding us. If you'll subscribe to our podcast, it actually helps us out. And I think it makes it easier for you to find us next time.
Yes.
So
I love that plug.
I know, right? That was a shameless plug to get us all started here.
Yes.
But so excited that we have Heather here today. And you've been on the podcast like numerous times.
I love it. Thanks for asking me back.
Yes. But you have a really, really special and important thing coming up that we wanted to highlight. And so go ahead and introduce yourself, say who you are and how you're connected, and then let's jump right into it.
All right. In case you don't know me, my name is Heather. I've been an agent here for 7 years. Moved over to the sales director side a couple of years ago, and love my position here. Love getting to love on the agent.
Love you.
And it's so much fun. But outside of work, I've got kind of other work.
You have another life. You have another life.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
It's
don't
not
just
all
do this.
work related. Yep. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about your family. And then what we're going to talk about today is mostly Maddie, which is your daughter. So kind of lead us into that.
Yeah. So kind of what I'm getting ready to go to, the event that I'm going to be going to today, actually, is March on Capitol Hill. And so March on Capitol Hill is something where the TSC community, and I'll back up here in just a second, kind of say what that is, but the TSC community goes up to DC and really lets our congressmen, our senators, congresswomen know what's important to us because of research. So
kind of lobby.
Yeah, it is. So backing up, the reason this is even important to me is my daughter, Maddie, who is 11 years old. She was diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis complex, which is a mouthful
It is. It's like the hardest one to say.
Just say TSC.
So we say TSC for short.
TSC for short. It's not tuberculosis, although a lot of people want to say that instead.
What is that, TBD?
TB.
TB. Just TB.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is TSC. So she was diagnosed at 5.5 months old. She started having seizures as a baby. She was born completely healthy. We had no clue that was going to be something she was going to deal with. Found out she had TSC after they found tumors on her brain, heart, and kidneys. It was a absolutely devastating moment in our life, and you obviously were along.
Yeah. The connection here is that I'm married to your dad.
Yeah.
So Maddie is our granddaughter.
Yeah. So she was.
So we've been there through the whole thing too.
All of it.
Yes. And not in the same capacity that you have, but yes.
It's still, you guys have been there to kind of see the struggles and the triumphs too, because there's been both. But when she was diagnosed, they put her on different medications. I had this desire to try to make a difference. I think it's that control part of me. I'm like, I can't control TSC, but I can control how I'm involved with the Alliance. And so at an early time, I really wanted to get more involved. And, how do I feel like I can help? How can I feel like I'm doing something to better the community? And so I really got plugged into the TSC Alliance.
And it wasn't not that it wasn't a great community, but there wasn't a lot of people at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when you guys were looking for support, it was hard to find.
It was. In fact, it's funny because I met a lady, April, in DC at one of the first world conferences that we went to. And Maddie was maybe 2 or 3 years old, and I met her. She was from Oklahoma, and I'm like, hey, can we start an Oklahoma group? And she was like, I have tried for so many years. And it was kind of cool to see, because in my head, I'm like, oh, there's nothing here. Right. She had been working so hard to try and get something. But before social media was a huge hit, they were like mailing things to each other. It was, I think Kari actually came down to Oklahoma and met with the families one time, in a living room, just, meeting. So anyway, there wasn't a lot. And I met her and she was like, yes, how do we do it? Let's partner and let's do it. And so the TSC Alliance of Oklahoma kind of emerged from that partnership, which was really cool. And I remember, and I've told you this, but I was like, when Maddie got diagnosed, and I looked to see, what's in Oklahoma. At that time, there wasn't anything, not that other families hadn't tried. Right. But I did not want another family to look on the website and feel like there was nobody. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of that.
And to kind of back into this too is like TSC is a horrible thing. And we are so blessed that Maddie is not more severely impacted.
Yeah.
But most
Yeah.
of the children that have TSC have a lot harder road.
Yeah,
and
there's
their parents have a hard road. And
it's just such a wide variety of different symptoms that can happen and severities that can happen. And, I've got so many incredible friends and their kids that now we're friends with because of this disease. But it is, I mean, you can have someone who's like Maddie, who has had brain surgery, who has, is on a Finitor, chemotherapy medication. And then you can have some who've, never had a seizure before, but still have this disease in their body.
Right.
And it's kind of like, a minefield. You're stepping through it. You don't know when the next thing is going to hit. And so I think parents, whether they're severely affected with TSC or not, you're always kind of just waiting, like what's going to happen next.
And then there are some ones that are severely affected.
Oh, yeah.
That, their lifestyle is completely changed. I always think of the realtor who's in like South Carolina or Stephanie.
Yeah.
And, her son now is in his later teen years.
Yeah.
But still, is at home, confined to being at home. And
it's a totally different life that you don't wish for yourself and you don't wish for anyone. And I'm always so, I don't know, it's amazing to see the grace that, parents have with your kids, even through the heartache.
Yes.
Because it's not fun. No one goes, this is what I want for my life or for my family. But then to see how graciously they walk through it is really incredible.
And that support is so important.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I think the other thing that you are really advocating for is advancement in understanding the disease and being able to ultimately come up with something that would cure or at least help supplement some of the symptoms. And
so it's really cool because where we're going today, I keep on wanting to say next week, we're going to
You're
DC.
going today.
I know.
You leave today.
I'm like, we gotta move. The TSCRP, it's the Tuberous Sclerosis Complex Research Program, is the whole reason we're going up there. So it is a research program on the DoD side that is looking. The reason it's over there is because of traumatic brain injury, and so if for our veterans and things like that, the research that is being done with TSC can also be helpful in that side of it. TSC is a linchpin disease, so meaning that there's a lot of different pathways that can lead to other things like autism, epilepsy, diabetes. There's so many different things that it can connect with. So any type of research that is with TSC could
also be used
to something more. And so I always tell people like, hey, you might not know someone with TSC, but you probably know someone with epilepsy.
Yes.
You probably know someone with cancer.
With autism.
You probably know, you probably do. And so we go up there and we ask for the continued funding for this research program. For many years, I would go up there and I thought, this is really cool. And I'm being a part of this and I'm taking the stories from Oklahoma families and presenting it to our congresspeople and senators. But it didn't really hit me until one time I was going up there. I heard about this drug called Finitor, and it was this medication that could help shrink the tumors or cysts on their kidneys. And it was kind of a new drug that they were looking at. It was actually an old drug for renal patients, cancer patients. And I was like, okay, this is neat that this is happening. Well, 2 years after that, Maddie's on that medication.
that's amazing.
And
I heard about this before, and it was related to something even maybe not specifically to TSC.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I remember thinking, how cool that God gave me that little gift of being like, even though I'm one person, I'm just one person. Like there are hundreds of TSC advocates that are getting on flights right now to go up there and advocate for this. But to be able to advocate for it for so long and then to have like Maddie actually have something from it was just so cool. And it still is because she's still on that medication. And, her doctor, before she got on this medication, it was in 2020, he, a year or two later, we looked at her kidneys and he said she went from having a kidney transplant at age 14, 15 to having a kidney transplant at 150, meaning like
not in her
she
lifetime.
won't have to. And so that is really cool to be a part of that. And I have to say, I went up, I think this is either my 9th or 10th year doing this, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
I know. I can't believe it's been that long. But when I first went, we hadn't had any Oklahoma signers on this TSCRP letter. It's a Dear Colleague letter. And I remember going in there thinking I was so good and I was going to get all the signers. And I went in my first year and got 0. And I was devastated because I'm like, I let
everybody down.
My daughter down.
Yeah.
I let Oklahoma down. And I was so upset, so much so that I didn't want to go back the next year. I thought, this is pointless. I'm going to go for a week, be away from my family, just to have people tell me no. Thankfully, I threw my little pity party and got over it. And then went back the next year and kind of had this new, worst thing they can say is no. And I'm just going to put it all out on the table. And we had our first congressman sign, Congressman Mullen. And I have to give him a shout out because he has been a huge champion for TSC, especially for Oklahoma families. He was our first signer. He has supported it since then. He was actually one of the leads on the letter for a couple of years when we needed a Republican lead. And so he has just been a huge champion for TSC and especially for Oklahoma people.
That is so awesome.
Which is really
And since
fun.
then, you've had others.
So he actually kind of called around and said, hey, I'm signing this. You guys should too. And it just kind of went on from there. So I'm so grateful for the continued signers that continue to put their name on there. For them, it probably doesn't mean a whole lot, but for me,
it means the world.
For you,
yes.
For Chris, for Maddie, it means everything.
Yes.
And for all of the people in Oklahoma. Speaking of Maddie, she's going with me this year.
I know it. And this is her first year.
Yes, this is her first year. And I was telling you and Chris, it's kind of crazy because I never thought 9 years later she'd be with me.
Right.
She's coming with me to go do this when I, for the longest time, thought, I'm going to do this, but she'll never want to. And here she is at the age wanting to go and tell them why it's important for her, for them to sign on in her life. It makes a big difference.
It does.
So,
and that's going to be so impactful on so many levels, not just for them to connect it to somebody real.
Right.
And a child.
Yeah.
And a family. But it's also going to be something for her that she can be proud of.
Yeah.
And that she can make a difference.
Yeah.
So I think that is so special.
I'm
that
excited.
You guys are going and your mom's going with you.
Yes.
So you're making it a family affair. Now, who else? You said hundreds of people.
Yes.
So it'll be other people just from Oklahoma or from all over?
All over.
Okay.
So the TSC Alliance gets us all together. I do want to say the TSC Alliance could not do this by themselves. They don't have enough people, manpower. The great thing about our community is it's a grassroots effort. And so it is mom and dads and grandparents and sisters and brothers. I've met people that they go there because their sister has TSC or their brother has TSC. My mom, being a grandparent, she's been able to tell the grandparent side of her story. But there's hundreds of us, and we tackle all of the offices in 2 or 3 days.
Which is a lot.
So I think right now we have, I want to say around 350 appointments.
Wow.
In 3 days. So, we are a small community, but we are a mighty community.
Yes.
And people tell us every year we go up there, they're like, we've never seen an organization do it like you guys do it. So it's really something to be proud of.
It is.
Yeah. But it wouldn't happen without the volunteers.
Right. And so tell us a little bit about your involvement with TSC Alliance too.
Yeah. So this is actually the last year of me being on the board of directors.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm terming out. So,
okay.
But I believe this is my 6th year as board of directors committee member. I'm on the science and medical committee. And then I'm also on.
I remember when they first put you on the science and medical, and you
gosh.
were like, "What?
What are you? Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing."
No.
And then you're like, "This is exactly where I should be."
I loved.
Yes.
Yeah. Kari asked me. She was like, we want a parent on this committee?" And I'm like, science and medical.
I'm going to be in there with all these doctors and scientists.
I have no clue what they're doing and what they're talking about. But I was also on government relations committee for my first 3 years. I just switched to outreach, which is more community. But I go up there outside of the appointments that I do with our representatives. I also have board meetings with that. I will miss them, even though I'll be excited to gain some time back to be a fly on the wall in some of these really important conversations that are talking about medications and different research and drug trials and all this, hope. Really, it makes me so proud to be a part of it because I'm like, they're not just sitting around.
And you've had a huge impact too with perspective. You've brought a lot of perspective to that group.
Yeah, as a parent.
I think is really.
I
really
love that.
neat.
I thought she was crazy for wanting me on that. And then, having a couple of parents on there to really give a human aspect to it and perspective versus just, the science side of it. Has been great. So I've loved it. I love being a part of the board. I will miss it, but it's been a great 6 years. And
I can't believe it's been 6 years.
I know we're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. So the TSC Alliance is celebrating a big monument for them. It will be in New York City in October, celebrating 50 years of the organization. And it started, you didn't ask this question, but I think it's really cool. It started with a bunch of moms going, we don't want to be alone. And they put out news articles. They put out, they sent out all these
50
letters.
years ago, which like what you were saying is it was hard.
Yeah.
Like getting connected, like it wasn't nearly as easy as being connected to everything now.
It's not. And, if they hadn't decided that this was important. I wonder what it would look like. I wonder what Maddie's life would look like.
Yeah.
Would we have the medications we have? Would we have the support? I just don't know.
Yep.
So it's really cool that it started with a bunch of moms in a kitchen going, we want to make something.
And ultimately, I would say it is a lot of moms still doing it.
Yep.
And I mean, the dads too, like Chris's gratitude this morning in our morning meeting was super sweet.
Yeah.
And to his point, it's a very emotional thing.
It is.
Like it is serious. It is hard. It is rewarding, but it's also devastating.
It is.
And being there with the people that you are advocating with and for, it just kind of brings it all together, and you just go, man, like this is pretty amazing.
Reliving a story too that you have to tell over and over again, which is really difficult. I think that's where the emotional side comes in. But, and I wish I would have said this morning when Chris said his gratitude, but I can't do my thing if he doesn't do his thing. Yeah. And so even though mine, I think, gets more recognition,
right?
Him, doing what he's done for however many years of being, supportive and usually staying home with Maddie and getting her to school and doing all that while I'm gone for a full week. It does take,
because today I was like, hey, if you need anything this week while you're gone, let me know. And he's like, I won't need anything.
I don't have anybody.
Like I won't have anybody. I said, okay, well, if you get lonely,
you know where to find me.
Call me because we're right down the street. But I just think what you guys have done together as a family and being there, fighting. And so real quickly as we wrap up, tell, our listeners if there's something that we can do, because I know that like our team, which I think that you probably got quite a few letters, but how do people help?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different ways. Number one, supporting with letters is awesome. Number two, we will have our Tulsa walk, our TSC Step Forward to Cure TSC walk in May. I want to say it's May 18th, but we will definitely probably do a podcast.
We'll probably do another podcast about that. Yeah, a follow-up to that.
Getting involved in those community events. And one thing that I'm seeing right now that is so helpful is volunteers. Like, there's a lot of things that we do over the year in Oklahoma that like the walk. It's hard to do the walk alone. And so if you have a desire to help a community or a desire to get involved, I've got a place for you. So I've got a couple of different committees that I'm looking to help with getting auction items, getting things like that. That is a huge, huge benefit. And then just for parents, who have children or adults with TSC, there's a place for you in our community. And it is so rewarding getting to help and volunteer in these ways, even if you can't go to DC. Be involved in it, and there's a place for them.
Yep. So we'll do a follow-up, but if you want more information and if you ever want to reach out and learn more or get involved, Heather's a great resource. So you can find her just by shooting her an email if you want. And she's heather@thecatronteam.com. So if that's something that you want more information on, how do you support, how do you help, how do you get involved, Heather@thecatronteam.com is her direct email address.
And then I can give the Alliance website too. So that's tscalliance.org. So
that's pretty easy.
Yeah, tscalliance.org.
Okay. So, well, thanks for coming on. And we can't wait to hear about all the adventures you're going to have this week and all the success that you're going to have this week.
Try to document it all.
We're praying over it. We know that it's going to be successful, but I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And
thanks for letting me be on here.
Yep, you bet. So catch us next time. If you want more information, reach out, but we'll see you next week on the Tulsa Life Podcast.